Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the massive ship UHS Defiance. Through the wide windows, he could see the endless darkness of space filled with thousands of stars. But today, those stars brought no peace to his mind. Emergency signals were flooding in from every corner of the galaxy, and each one carried the same terrible message. The Devourers were coming. Jake had been a soldier for 30 years. He had fought in Earth's civil wars and led missions to distant planets. He thought he had seen everything that war could offer, but this was different. This enemy was unlike anything humanity or any other alien race had ever faced before. Captain. Lisa Rodriguez walked up to him, holding a small device that glowed with blue light. Her face was pale, and her hands shook slightly as she spoke. "Admiral, we just received another distress call. This time it's from the Zenthari homeworld." Jake took the device and activated it. A holographic image appeared in the air between them. The creature that appeared was tall and thin, with blue skin that looked like crystal. Its eyes were large and filled with fear. This was Ambassador Keth I, speaking for his entire species. "People of Earth," the alien said in broken human language, "we need your help. The machines have destroyed 17 of our worlds. Our people are dying. We have never known war. We do not know how to fight. Please, you must help us." The message ended, and the hologram disappeared. Lisa looked at Jake with worry in her eyes. "Sir, the Zenthari have been peaceful for over 1,000 years. They don't even have weapons on their ships. If the Devourers reach their core worlds, they'll all die." Jake finished her sentence. He had seen the reports from other attacked worlds. The Devourers left nothing behind. No buildings, no people, no life at all. They consumed everything and moved on like a plague of metal locusts. Commander. Ryan Carter appeared on the bridge carrying a thick file of papers. Ryan was the head of human intelligence, and he knew more about their enemies than anyone else in the fleet. His face was grim as he approached the Admiral. "Sir, I have the latest report on Devourer capabilities," Ryan said. "It's not good news." Jake nodded for him to continue. Ryan opened his file and began reading the facts that made everyone's blood run cold. "The Devourers are not like any enemy we've faced before. They're machines, but they think and plan like living beings. They move through space in huge swarms, targeting worlds with the most resources. When they attack a planet, they strip it completely clean. They take all the metals, all the organic matter, even the atmosphere. Then they use these materials to build more of themselves." Lisa stepped closer. "How many ships do they have?" "Our best estimate is over 50,000 combat vessels," Ryan replied. "And that number grows every time they consume a world. They've been doing this for who knows how long, moving from galaxy to galaxy like a cosmic disease." Jake felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. 50,000 ships was more than the entire combined fleet of all known alien species. Humanity's navy, even with all their newest ships, numbered only 8,000 vessels. The math was simple and terrifying. "What about their weaknesses?" Jake asked. "There has to be something." Ryan flipped through several pages before answering. "They seem to be controlled by some kind of shared consciousness. All their ships move in perfect coordination, like they're all parts of one giant mind. But, sir, that might also be their strength. They never make mistakes because they're all thinking together." A new voice interrupted their conversation. "Admiral Morrison, incoming transmission from Earth." Jake turned to see his communications officer pointing at the main screen. The image changed to show President Helen Carter sitting in the Oval Office. Behind her, Jake could see other government officials and military leaders gathered for an emergency meeting. "Admiral," the president began, "I'm sure you've seen the reports. The Galactic Council has called an emergency session. They're asking all member species to contribute ships and resources to stop the Devourer advance." Jake nodded. "What are our orders, Madam President?" President Carter's expression became very serious. "Jake, I'm going to be direct with you. Most of the other species are scared. The Thorcan Empire has already pulled their fleets back to defend their home systems. The Ethereals are talking about retreating to the far edge of the galaxy. Even some of the council members are suggesting we abandon the Outer Rim completely. And our position? Jake asked, though he already suspected the answer. Humanity will not abandon innocent people to die, the president said firmly. We've only been part of the galactic community for 50 years, but we've learned something important. When good people do nothing, evil wins. We're going to fight. Lisa looked surprised. Madam President, with respect, we're outnumbered 6-1. Our ships are tough, but... President Carter held up her hand. Captain Rodriguez, I understand the odds, but there's something the other species don't seem to understand about humanity. We've been fighting wars for our entire history. Every human child grows up hearing stories about people who stood against impossible odds and won through courage and determination. Jake felt a surge of pride mixed with fear. He knew the president was right about human nature, but he also knew what they were facing. What's the plan, Madam President? Congress is voting tomorrow, but I already know the result, she replied. We're going to deploy the entire Human Federation Navy, every ship, every crew member, every weapon we have. We're going to position ourselves between the Devourers and the inner systems, and we're going to hold the line. Ryan stepped forward. Madam President, that means we'll be fighting alone until the other species decide to help us. Then we fight alone, President Carter said without hesitation. Admiral Morrison, I'm giving you command of the largest military operation in human history. Your mission is simple. Stop the Devourers from reaching the populated core worlds, whatever it takes. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Jake looked around at his officers. Lisa appeared nervous but determined. Ryan was all ready, making notes about deployment strategies. The other crew members stood at their stations waiting for orders. Jake walked to the center of the bridge and activated the ship's communication system. Throughout the UHS Defiance and on every other human ship in the fleet, his voice echoed through the corridors. This is Admiral Morrison speaking to all crew members. In a few hours, we're going to receive orders that will change everything. We're going to war against an enemy that has never been defeated. We're going to defend alien worlds and alien people who most of us have never met. Some of you might wonder why we're risking everything for strangers. He paused, looking out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, entire civilizations were counting on them. The answer is simple. We're human beings. We don't abandon people who need help. We don't run from fights just because they're hard. And we sure as hell don't let bullies destroy innocent lives while we watch from a safe distance. We're going to show this galaxy what humanity is really made of. The Devourers were coming, but humanity was ready to meet them. Admiral Jake Morrison stared at the tactical display showing the Kepler Junction. 7 major space lanes met at this point, making it the perfect place to stop the Devourer advance. But it was also the perfect place to die if his plan failed. Admiral, the alien commanders are questioning your deployment strategy, reported Captain Lisa Rodriguez. She looked worried as she handed him a data pad filled with complaints from their allies. Jake read through the messages quickly. The Thorcan generals thought spreading their ships across multiple fronts was madness. The Zenthari Council believed they should concentrate all firepower in one location. Even the Krixtai Queen was confused by human tactics. They think we're going to get everyone killed, Lisa said quietly. Jake looked around the bridge of the UHS Defiance. His crew was preparing for the biggest battle in human history, and they trusted him completely. He couldn't let them down. Lisa, patch me through to all fleet commanders, he ordered. When the communication channel opened, Jake could see dozens of alien faces on his screen. Some looked like giant insects, others were made of flowing energy, and a few resembled walking rocks. All of them looked scared. I know you think our battle plan is crazy, Jake began. Most military textbooks would agree with you. But those textbooks were written by people who never faced an enemy like the Devourers. These machines adapt to everything you throw at them. If we fight them the way they expect, we'll lose. General Krextar, the massive Thorkin commander, spoke first. His voice sounded like grinding stone. Admiral Morrison, human tactics are too risky. If we spread our forces thin, the enemy will break through our lines. General, that's exactly what I'm counting on, Jake replied. When they break through, they'll be scattered and confused. That's when we hit them from unexpected directions. Before anyone could argue further, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. Lieutenant Kate Sullivan's voice came over the intercom from the fighter bay. Admiral, Devourer scouts have entered the system. 3 ships moving fast toward our position. Jake turned to his communications officer. Send Kate's squadron to intercept. All other ships hold position. On the main screen, they watched as 12 human fighters launched from various ships in the fleet. Kate led them in a formation that looked chaotic, but was actually carefully planned. Mixed in with the human pilots were alien fighters from 6 different species. Kate's voice crackled over the radio as her squadron approached the enemy scouts. All pilots, remember what we practiced. Don't try to match their movements. Do something they won't expect. The Devourer scouts were sleek black ships that moved with mechanical precision. They fired energy beams that could cut through most armor like paper. But as Kate's mixed squadron attacked from multiple angles, something strange happened. They're confused, reported alien pilot Zethai from his Zenthari fighter. The Devourer ships keep trying to predict our movements, but we're not following any pattern they recognize. Kate smiled inside her helmet. That's because we're not following any pattern at all. Human pilots break formation and attack individually. Alien pilots support whoever needs help. What followed was the most chaotic space battle anyone had ever seen. Human fighters dove straight at enemy ships, pulling away at the last second. Zenthari pilots danced around Devourer beams like they were performing ballet. Thorkin fighters simply rammed into enemy ships, trusting their heavy armor to protect them. The Devourer scouts, programmed to fight organized military formations, couldn't adapt fast enough to the seemingly random attacks. Within minutes, all 3 enemy ships were destroyed. Impossible, whispered Dr. Vethara, the ethereal scientist. The Devourers have never been defeated in such small numbers. Jake nodded grimly. That's because no one has ever fought them the human way before. We don't follow the rules of war. We make up new rules as we go. Hours later, the main Devourer fleet arrived at Kepler Junction. Captain Alex Bennett, commanding the destroyer UHS Vengeance, was the first to see them on his sensors. Dear God, Alex whispered as he counted the enemy ships. There must be over 1,000 of them. The Devourer fleet moved in perfect formation, like a school of metal fish swimming through space. Each ship was exactly where it needed to be for maximum efficiency. Their weapons charged in unison, creating an energy signature that made every sensor on every Allied ship scream warnings. All ships, this is Admiral Morrison, Jake's voice came over the fleet communication system. Execute battle plan chaos. Repeat, execute battle plan chaos. Immediately, the Allied fleet began moving in ways that defied every rule of space warfare. Human ships charged straight at the enemy center while alien vessels attacked from the sides. Some ships flew upside down, others spun like tops while firing their weapons. Alex Bennett watched his tactical display as the human destroyer UHS Thunder, commanded by his friend Captain Gary Woods, suddenly changed course and headed directly for the largest Devourer ship. "Gary, what are you doing?" Alex called over the radio. Gary's voice came back calm and steady. "Testing a theory, Alex. These machines think they're invincible because our energy weapons can't penetrate their shields. But I bet they're not expecting a good old-fashioned ramming attack." Before anyone could stop him, Gary ordered his ship to full speed. The UHS Thunder, weighing 50,000 tons, slammed into the side of the massive Devourer vessel. Both ships exploded in a brilliant flash of light that lit up the entire battle zone. "It worked," Alex said in amazement. "Gary's ship took out their command vessel." But there was no time to mourn. The Devourer fleet, suddenly without their primary coordinator, began making small mistakes. Ships that should have supported each other were slightly out of position. Weapons that should have fired together were off by milliseconds. Dr. Amanda Foster, watching from the research ship, immediately understood what was happening. "Admiral, the ramming attack disrupted their local quantum network. The remaining ships are trying to re-establish coordination, but it's taking time. All ships, press the attack now," Jake ordered. "Hit them while they're confused." The Allied fleet threw everything they had at the disorganized Devourers. Captain Steve Parker led his mixed squadron in coordinated strikes against enemy weak points. Commander Rachel Davis used her ship's new quantum disruption device to interfere with Devourer communications. Lieutenant Kate Sullivan and her fighter pilots flew impossible maneuvers that no sane pilot would attempt. They dove between massive ships, firing at critical systems and pulling away before the enemy could respond. The battle raged for 6 hours. Ships on both sides were destroyed, but slowly the tide turned in favor of the Alliance. The Devourers, without their perfect coordination, began making mistakes that human commanders could exploit. Captain Alex Bennett found himself commanding 3 damaged ships after their captains were killed. He had never led so many vessels before, but he remembered his training and did what felt right. "All ships, form up on me," Alex ordered. "We're going to punch a hole through their right flank." As his small group attacked, other human commanders did the same thing. Without waiting for orders, they adapted to the changing battle and made decisions based on instinct rather than protocol. This was something the Devourers couldn't understand. Their programming told them that inferior forces should retreat when facing overwhelming odds. But humans kept fighting, kept adapting, kept finding new ways to hurt their enemies. Colonel Danny Wright, watching from his scout ship, saw the moment when the Devourer fleet began to retreat. The remaining enemy ships, nearly 600 of them, suddenly turned and fled back the way they came. "They're running," Danny reported in disbelief. "The Devourers are actually running away." Cheers erupted across every ship in the Allied fleet. Species that had never believed victory was possible were celebrating together. The Devourers, who had never been defeated, had been stopped for the first time in their existence. But Jake Morrison wasn't celebrating yet. He knew this was just the beginning. The enemy would adapt to their tactics, build new ships, and come back stronger. The real war was still ahead of them. "All ships, damage reports," Jake ordered. "We won this battle, but the war is far from over." As reports came in, the cost became clear. Humanity had lost 3 ships completely, including the brave UHS Thunder. Over 400 crew members had died, and twice that number were wounded. But they had proven something important. The Devourers could be beaten. It would take courage, sacrifice, and tactics that no other species would dare to use. It would require humans to do what they did best: fight impossible odds and somehow find a way to win. The first stand at Kepler Junction was over. The galaxy now knew that humanity would keep its promise to defend innocent worlds, no matter what the cost. Colonel Danny Wright pressed his face against the window of his scout ship as they dropped out of hyperspace. What he saw made his blood run cold. The planet below had once been home to 40 million people. Now it was nothing but gray rock and metal scars. The Devourers had stripped away everything, even the oceans. "Take us closer to the surface," Danny ordered his pilot. "I need to see their movement patterns." Lieutenant Pete Johnson guided their small ship toward the dead world. As they flew over what used to be cities, Danny could see the systematic way the machines had worked. They had carved the planet into perfect squares, harvesting each section completely before moving to the next. "Sir, look at this," called Sergeant Amy Torres from her sensor station. The Devourers didn't attack randomly. They followed a specific path across the planet's surface. It's like they had a plan. Danny studied the readings on his screen. Amy was right. The enemy machines moved in predictable patterns, always choosing the areas with the most valuable materials first. This was important information. If humans could predict where the Devourers would strike next, they could be waiting for them. Send this data back to Admiral Morrison immediately, Danny said, and plot a course for the Krixtai system. We need to warn them they're next on the list. 3 hours later, Danny's ship approached the insectoid homeworld. The Krixtai were strange, creatures that looked like giant ants standing on 2 legs. They lived in massive underground cities and shared thoughts through some kind of natural telepathy. Most humans found them unsettling, but Danny had worked with them before and respected their intelligence. Queen Zixara met them at the landing platform. She was larger than the other Krixtai, with golden markings on her dark shell. When she spoke, her voice sounded like clicking metal, but the translation device made her words clear. "Colonel Wright," she said, "we have been expecting you. Our scouts have detected the machine swarm approaching our outer colonies. How much time do we have?" "Maybe 2 weeks," Danny replied honestly. "But we have a plan to evacuate your people to safer systems." The Queen's antennae twitched, which Danny knew meant she was communicating with other Krixtai across the planet. After a moment, she spoke again. "My people do not wish to run. We want to fight alongside humanity. What do you need from us?" Danny was surprised. Most alien species were terrified of the Devourers. "Your Majesty, these machines have destroyed 17 worlds. Even our best ships barely slow them down." "Precisely. Why we must work together," Queen Zixara replied. "The Krixtai have been studying the tactical data from previous attacks. We believe the key to victory lies in disrupting their coordination. Our hive mind allows us to understand how collective consciousness operates." Meanwhile, on the research station orbiting Zenthari Prime, Dr. Amanda Foster was having her own breakthrough. She stood in a laboratory filled with alien scientists from 12 different species. Each race had contributed their best minds to understand the Devourer threat. "The Yai. Scans from the destroyed world show something interesting," Amanda explained to the mixed group of researchers. She pointed to a holographic display showing the internal structure of a captured Devourer probe. "These machines aren't just mindless destroyers. They're connected through quantum entanglement networks." Dr. Vethara, a tall ethereal being made of flowing energy, responded in a voice like wind chimes. "This explains their perfect coordination across vast distances. They share information instantly through quantum links." Amanda nodded excitedly. "Exactly. And if we can find a way to disrupt those quantum connections, we might be able to turn their greatest strength into a weakness." The insectoid scientist, Kliktar from the Krixtai delegation, clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "In our hive mind, when communication is severed, individual members become confused and ineffective. The same principle might apply to these machines." "But how do we break quantum entanglement on such a massive scale?" asked Dr. Thrax, a rock-like being from the Thorkin Empire. Amanda smiled. "We're going to need a lot of help, and we're going to have to take some serious risks." In space above them, Captain Steve Parker was learning just how different alien fighting styles could be. His squadron consisted of 6 human ships, 4 elegant Zenthari vessels, 3 heavily armored Thorkin cruisers, and 2 mysterious ethereal energy forms that somehow counted as spaceships. "All ships, maintain formation," Steve said into his communicator. "We're going to practice the defensive pattern Admiral Morrison designed." The response he got was chaos. The Zenthari ships moved like dancers, flowing through space in beautiful curves that had nothing to do with military efficiency. The Thorcan vessels lumbered forward in straight lines, their commanders apparently believing that armor was more important than speed. The ethereal ships flickered in and out of normal space, making it impossible to predict where they would be. "This isn't working," muttered his second-in-command, Commander Beth Lopez. "They all fight completely differently." Steve watched his sensors as the mixed fleet tried to form up. Beth was right. Every species had developed their own tactics based on their nature and technology. The Zenthari avoided conflict whenever possible. The Thorkins relied on overwhelming firepower. The Ethereals used hit-and-run attacks that confused their enemies. Maybe that's the answer, Steve said suddenly. We don't try to make them all fight the same way. We use their differences as advantages. He opened a channel to all ships in the squadron. Listen up, everyone. New plan, Zenthari ships, our scouts. Use your speed and agility to gather information and stay out of trouble. Thorkin vessels, you're our shield wall. Anything that wants to hurt our lighter ships has to go through you first. Ethereal ships, you're our surprise attacks. Hit the enemy when they're not expecting it. And what about the human ships? Asked Captain Yathara from the lead Zenthari vessel. Steve grinned. We're the glue that holds this crazy formation together. Human ships will coordinate between all the different groups and adapt to whatever the situation needs. As they practiced the new tactics, something amazing happened. The mixed squadron began moving like a single organism. Each species did what they did best, while human ships filled in the gaps and provided communication between the different groups. Commander Rachel Davis was watching this training exercise from the bridge of her ship when an urgent message came through. She had been studying Devourer technology for weeks, looking for any weakness they could exploit. Commander, we're receiving a priority transmission from Dr. Foster's research team, her communications officer reported. Rachel accepted the call, and Amanda's excited face appeared on the screen. Rachel, we've found something important. The Devourer quantum network has a central hub structure. If we can locate and destroy the command nodes, we can break their coordination over large areas. How large an area? Rachel asked. Our calculations suggest that destroying one command node could disrupt hundreds of Devourer ships, Amanda replied. But there's a catch. The command nodes are heavily protected, and you'd have to get very close to them to deploy the disruption device we're developing. Rachel felt a familiar mixture of excitement and fear. This was the kind of dangerous mission that could change everything. How close? Close enough to touch them, Amanda said grimly. We're talking about boarding actions against enemy ships, something that would be considered suicide by most species. Rachel smiled. Good thing humans specialize in impossible missions. Across the galaxy, General Chris Murphy was facing a different kind of challenge. Millions of refugees were fleeing the Devourer advance, and most alien species simply didn't have enough transport ships to move their populations quickly. Sir, the Zenthari are asking for help evacuating their outer colonies, reported his aide, Major Frank Kelly. They have over 10 million people spread across 40 different worlds, but their ships can only carry a few thousand at a time. Chris looked at the massive holographic display showing refugee movements across dozens of star systems. It was a logistical nightmare that would test every resource the Alliance had. What about our transport capacity? He asked. Human cargo ships can carry 50 times more people than most alien vessels, Frank replied. Our military transports are even bigger. If we convert some of our warships... Do it, Chris ordered. Strip out the weapons if you have to. Saving lives is more important than having a few extra guns. As orders went out across the human fleet, something remarkable began happening. Species that had been enemies for centuries started working together. Thorkin engineers shared their shield, technology with human ships. Zenthari artists painted identification symbols that could be recognized by any species. Ethereal energy beings provided power to damaged vessels regardless of what race built them. The Alliance was becoming something more than just a military cooperation. It was becoming a family, with humanity somehow serving as the bridge between vastly different cultures and ways of thinking. But in the darkness between stars, the Devourer swarm continued its relentless advance. 50,000 machine ships moved with perfect coordination toward the heart of galactic civilization. They had consumed 1,000 worlds and showed no sign of slowing down. The real test was still coming. The largest fleet in galactic history gathered around Earth. Ships came from every human colony, every mining station, every outpost in the far reaches of space. Military vessels flew alongside civilian freighters that had been converted into warships. Even small personal shuttles arrived, their crews demanding to fight for their homeworld. Admiral Kevin Brooks stood on the command bridge of the massive space station that orbited Earth. Through the viewing windows, he could see thousands of ships stretching out into space like a metal ocean. Every vessel pulsed with the red glow of rage drive engines. "Final count, Admiral," reported Commander Amy Rodriguez. 8,400 ships, everyone equipped with either a rage drive or stellar resonance engine. Total crew, 2 million volunteers. Brooks felt the weight of those numbers. 2 million humans, all focused on the same goal, all carrying the same burning anger toward the aliens who wanted to destroy their sun. Captain Jake Morrison flew his ship, the Fury, at the front of the formation. Behind him came Tony Martinez in a converted cargo hauler he had named Payback. Dr. Helen White commanded a science vessel packed with the most advanced stellar resonance technology ever built. All ships, this is Admiral Brooks, the transmission, went out across the fleet. The Scourge are coming to destroy our world. They think they can end humanity by putting out our sun. Today, we show them they picked the wrong species to threaten. Deep in space, beyond the edge of the solar system, the Scourge fleet approached. 10,000 spider ships, each one the size of a city. They moved in perfect formation, their computers calculating the most efficient way to eliminate human resistance. The Scourge overmind, the collective intelligence that controlled all their forces, studied the human fleet with confusion. The readings made no sense. Each human ship was generating more energy than should be possible. Worse, the energy seemed to be affecting the fabric of space itself. Dr. Lisa Carter, now aboard the command station, monitored the ancient alien communication systems. "Admiral, I'm picking up Scourge transmissions. They're trying to contact something outside our galaxy." "Can you translate it?" Dr. Carter's face went pale. "They're calling for help. They're telling their masters that humanity is too dangerous to exist." Brooks felt his blood turn cold. "Their masters?" "The entities they've been afraid of all along. The ones from outside normal space-time. The Scourge are asking permission to destroy our entire solar system." Before Brooks could respond, space itself began to tear open near the edge of the system. Something vast and terrible started to push through the hole in reality. It looked like a shadow made of stars, a darkness that hurt to look at directly. "Admiral," Rodriguez called out, "we're detecting massive gravitational anomalies. Whatever that thing is, it's the size of a moon, and it's bending space around itself." The shadow entity spoke, and its voice came through every communication system at once. The words were in no human language, but somehow everyone understood them. "Child species, you have disrupted the cosmic order. Your emotions create chaos in the void. You will be removed." Jake Morrison looked at the entity and felt something he had never experienced before. Not fear, not anger, but a deep, burning defiance that seemed to come from the very core of his being. "All ships," he broadcast on an open channel. "You heard that thing. It wants to remove us. It thinks our emotions are chaos. Let's show it what human chaos really looks like." Every human in the fleet focused their minds on the same thought. They would not be removed. They would not be silenced. They would not let anyone, not the Scourge, not cosmic entities, not the universe itself, tell them they had no right to exist. The combined emotional energy of 2 million humans hit the stellar resonance engines all at once. The red glow around the human fleet became so bright it could be seen from other star systems. But this time, the energy didn't stop at the ships. The sun began to pulse with red light, its surface rippling like water. The other planets in the solar system started to glow as human emotion infected their very atoms. Mars turned red. Jupiter's storms began to swirl in patterns that matched human heartbeats. "What's happening?" Dr. White called out from her ship. Dr. Carter was monitoring readings that shouldn't be possible. The human emotional energy is rewriting the laws of physics in local space. We're not just using the solar system as a weapon. We're turning it into an extension of human will. The shadow entity recoiled as waves of red energy washed over it. For beings that existed in the cold emptiness between realities, the warmth of human emotion was like acid. Impossible. The entity's voice cracked across space. Matter cannot be controlled by mere feeling. Physics cannot be altered by biological impulses. Tony Martinez laughed over the radio. "You want to see impossible? Watch this." He pushed his ship's rage drive beyond all safety limits, pouring every ounce of his anger into the engine. His fury at seeing his home attacked, his rage at the aliens who thought they could just erase humanity, his absolute refusal to give up. Tony's ship exploded in a flash of red light, but instead of dying, the explosion spread and merged with the energy from the other human vessels. The combined power reached critical mass and did something that had never happened before in galactic history. The sun moved, not a small shift or a wobble, but an actual movement through space as human. Emotion dragged a star from its ancient position. The sun began to orbit around the human fleet instead of the other way around. The scourge ships tried to retreat, but it was too late. The moving star created gravitational waves that tore their perfect formations apart. Spider ships that had survived for millions of years were crushed like insects. But the shadow entity was not defeated. It gathered power from the darkness between stars and prepared to destroy the entire solar system rather than let humanity continue to exist. That's when Jake Morrison made the final choice that would change everything. He aimed the Fury directly at the entity and activated every stellar resonance engine on his ship at once. "All ships, follow me," he broadcast. "We're going to show this thing what it means to be human." The entire human fleet charged the shadow entity. 2 million humans, screaming their defiance at forces that claimed to rule the universe. Their combined emotional energy turned the space around them into something new, something that had never existed before. The collision between human will and cosmic law created an explosion that could be seen across the galaxy. When the light faded, the shadow entity was gone, destroyed by something it could never understand or defeat. The Scourge Overmind, faced with the destruction of its masters, did something unprecedented. It surrendered. "We yield!" The transmission came from the surviving spider ships. "Your species is beyond our comprehension. We will not interfere with human expansion." Admiral Brooks accepted the surrender, but he knew the war had changed humanity forever. They were no longer just another species struggling to survive. They had become something new, something that could rewrite reality through sheer force of will. Years later, when other species told stories about the war, they would speak of the day the stars themselves learned to fear. They would tell their children about the humans who refused to accept any limit, even cosmic ones. And in the space around Earth, where the final battle had been fought, the stars still glowed red with the memory of human rage. A permanent reminder that some things in the universe are stronger than physics, stronger than logic, stronger even than the laws that govern reality itself. The galaxy had learned what it meant to face a species that would rather break the universe than accept defeat. And in the darkness between stars, older and more terrible entities took notice and decided that perhaps this small corner of space was best left alone. Humanity had won more than a war. They had won the right to exist on their own terms, no matter what the cosmos thought about it. The red star changed everything. News of Vega's transformation spread across the galaxy faster than any human ship could travel. Other alien species that had been hiding from the Scourge for thousands of years suddenly started sending messages to Earth. Admiral Kevin Brooks read the first alien contact message with amazement. It came from a species called the Zephyrians, who lived in a distant star cluster. "We have watched the red star appear in our sky," the message said. "For 3 million years we have hidden from the scourge. You have done something we thought impossible. You have made them afraid." More messages came every day. The Cathara, who lived in underwater cities. The Stellans, who built their homes inside asteroids. The Vortani, who could travel between dimensions. All of them had been hiding from the scourge, and all of them wanted to know how humanity had made a star change color. General Paul Johnson studied the alien communications. "Admiral, we're receiving contact requests from over 30 different species. They all want to form an alliance against the scourge." Brooks felt the weight of responsibility. "How many species are we talking about? Based on these messages, there might be hundreds of intelligent species still alive in the galaxy. They've all been hiding, waiting for someone else to fight the scourge first." Meanwhile, Dr. Lisa Carter made a discovery in the Veilth ruins. That explained why the aliens were so interested in humanity. Deep in the ancient library, she found a prophecy that the dying species had left behind. "Listen to this," she told Captain Jake Morrison. "When the Star Killers have grown old and confident, when they believe all resistance is ended, then shall come the flame-hearted ones. They will burn with such fury that even the void itself will tremble." Jake felt chills run down his spine. "The Veilth knew we were coming?" "Not specifically humans," Dr. Carter explained. "But they predicted that someday a species would appear that could fight the scourge with pure emotion. They called them the flame-hearted ones." Dr. Carter found more disturbing information. The scourge were not just conquerors. They were running from something much worse. The ancient records spoke of entities from outside normal space that considered all organized matter to be a disease. "The scourge believe they're protecting the universe," Dr. Carter said. "They think that if too many intelligent species develop at once, it will attract the attention of things that make the scourge look friendly." Jake studied the alien writings. "So they've been killing everyone to keep us safe from something worse?" "That's what they believe. But according to these records, they're wrong. The entities they fear aren't attracted by intelligence. They're attracted by fear and submission." Back on Earth, Dr. Helen White was working on a new version of the Rage Drive that she called the Stellar Resonance Engine. The idea came to her after studying what had happened to Vega. "The human emotions aren't just powering our ships," she explained to Admiral Brooks. "They're changing the fundamental structure of space-time around us. When enough humans feel the same emotion at the same time, it creates waves that can affect stellar matter." She showed him her calculations. "If we can get a large enough fleet with perfectly synchronized rage drives, we might be able to move stars themselves." Brooks stared at the numbers. "You're talking about using stars as weapons?" "I'm talking about rewriting the laws of physics." "Through sheer human will," Dr. White said. "The Scourge have technology. We have something better. We have passion that can change reality itself." Captain Morrison was chosen to lead the first test of the Stellar Resonance Engine. His ship, the Fury, had been completely rebuilt around the new technology. The engine room looked more like a cathedral than a machine, with crystals that pulsed in rhythm with the crew's heartbeats. "The key is emotional synchronization," Dr. White explained before the test. "Everyone on the ship needs to feel the same thing at the same time. The stronger and more unified the emotion, the more power you'll generate." Jake assembled his crew for the mission. They were all volunteers who had lost everything to the Scourge. Ben Carter had lost his family on New Berlin. Dr. Ryan Murphy had watched his research station burn. Every person on the ship had a personal reason to hate their enemy. "We're not just testing a new engine," Jake told his crew. "We're testing whether human emotion can be stronger than alien technology." The Fury launched toward a Scourge stronghold in the Centauri system. Intelligence reports said the aliens had built a massive fortress there with hundreds of ships. It was supposed to be impossible to attack. When the Fury arrived, Jake saw that the reports were correct. The alien fortress was enormous, protected by energy shields and surrounded by spider ships. Any normal attack would be suicide. "All right, everyone," Jake announced. "Think about why we're here. Think about everyone we've lost. Think about how much we want to make them pay." The stellar resonance engine came alive with a sound like singing. The ship began to glow with red light that was brighter than anything they had seen before. But this time, the light didn't stay contained to the ship. The red energy spread out into space, creating waves that could be seen from nearby planets. When the waves reached the local star, something incredible happened. The star began to pulse, in rhythm with the human emotions. "Captain," Ben Carter called out in amazement. "The star is responding to us. It's actually moving." Jake watched as the star shifted slightly in its position, pulled by the gravitational waves created by human. Rage. For the first time in galactic history, a species had learned to control stellar matter through pure emotion. The Scourge Fortress immediately went to full alert. Their sensors had never detected anything like this before. As far as they knew, stars were fixed objects that followed the laws of physics. They had no protocols for dealing with a star that could be used as a weapon. Jake aimed the stellar energy at the alien fortress. The beam of focused starlight cut through the Scourge, shields like they were made of paper. The fortress exploded in a flash that could be seen from Earth. But the victory came with a terrible realization. The energy required to move a star had pushed the Fury's crew to their emotional limits. Several crew members collapsed from exhaustion, and the ship's hull was glowing white-hot from the power it had channeled. "We can't do this often," Dr. Murphy warned. "The human mind wasn't designed to generate this much emotional energy." Jake nodded, but he was already thinking about the implications. If one ship could move a star, what could a whole fleet do? What could happen if all of humanity focused their rage on the same target? The answer came sooner than expected. The Scourge, faced with their first real defeat in millions of years, decided to end the war quickly. They gathered their entire fleet, over 10,000 ships, and headed straight for Earth. The message they sent ahead was simple. "Your species has violated the cosmic order. Your homeworld will be cleansed. Your star will be extinguished. This is the final warning." Admiral Brooks read the message and felt something he had never experienced before. Not fear, not anger, but a cold determination that seemed to spread through his entire being. "They want to destroy our sun," he told the emergency council. "They think they can just erase humanity from existence." Commander Amy Rodriguez stood up. "Admiral, I request permission to gather every human ship in the galaxy, every rage drive, every stellar resonance engine, every person who has ever called themselves human." "What are you planning, Commander?" Rodriguez looked out at the night sky, where Vega still glowed red. "I'm planning to show the Scourge what happens when you threaten the human homeworld. I'm planning to turn our entire solar system into a weapon." Brooks felt the same cold determination spreading through him. "Do it. Gather them all. If the Scourge want a final battle, we'll give them one they'll never forget." As messages went out across human space calling every ship and every volunteer to defend Earth, something unprecedented began to happen. The combined emotional energy of billions of humans started to affect the space around their solar system. The sun began to pulse with red light, and for the first time in galactic history, other species detected something that terrified them, more than the Scourge ever had. They detected the sound of an entire star system preparing for war. The final battle was coming, and the stars themselves were choosing sides.